In the age when the gods of Olympus still meddled in the affairs of men, the lines between the divine and mortal often blurred. Heroes born of both worlds carried out the will of the gods, shaped the destinies of empires, and faced trials that echoed through eternity. This is the story of Evander, a young demigod, whose deeds would stir both the heavens and the earth, and whose fate would unite gods and men in a way never seen before. Evander was born in the coastal city of Mycenae, known for its sprawling citadel and warriors of legend. His mother, Callista, was a noblewoman of renowned beauty, chosen by Apollo himself. She had caught the sun god's eye while dancing in a sacred grove dedicated to him, her grace reminding him of the Muses. In time, their union brought forth Evander, a boy with golden eyes that gleamed like the sun and skin kissed with an otherworldly glow. Though he bore his divine heritage with pride, Evander knew little of his father beyond stories of his might and wisdom. Apollo, like many gods, appeared in Evander's life rarely, leaving the young hero to find his own path. Growing up, Evander possessed abilities that far surpassed those of other mortals. His strength was like the surge of a wave crashing against the shore, and his swiftness rivaled the winds that danced through the olive groves. Yet, for all his talents, Evander's heart yearned for purpose, something beyond the life of a noble, in a world where the gods constantly shaped the fate of men. One evening, as the sun dipped into the horizon, casting the world in a golden glow, Evander stood on the cliffs above Mycenae, staring out at the vast Aegean Sea. It was here that he received his first divine calling. The wind shifted, and a voice, soft and melodic, filled the air around him. "Evander, son of Apollo," the voice sang, "the world is shifting, and you must play your part in the song that is to come." Startled, Evander spun around and saw before him the goddess Athena, clad in shimmering silver armor, her eyes as sharp as the keenest blade. "Goddess Athena," Evander whispered, bowing his head in reverence. "What would you have me do?" "The time for peace between the gods is unraveling," Athena began, her voice firm yet filled with sorrow. "Zeus, my father, grows restless. The balance that keeps our world and yours in harmony is threatened. Mortals no longer fear or honor us as they once did, and some gods wish to rekindle old conflicts." "What part do I play in this?" Evander asked, his heart pounding with both excitement and fear. Athena placed a hand on his shoulder. "The fates have woven your destiny into the very fabric of this conflict. But to fulfill it, you must first prove yourself. The gods will not follow a hero untested. 3 tasks await you, each one designed to show Olympus that you are worthy. Should you succeed, you will rise not just as a hero, but as a champion whose deeds will echo through eternity." Evander's pulse quickened, a chance to prove himself not only to the gods, but to all of Greece. He nodded, determination filling his chest. "I will do it. Tell me what must be done." Athena smiled, though there was something wistful in her expression, as if she knew the weight of the path he was about to tread. "Your first task lies to the north, in the shadow of Mount Pelion, the realm of the centaurs. There, a sacred artifact has been stolen by the rogue centaur, Arion, who no longer serves Chiron's wise rule. You must retrieve it, for it holds the key to the peace between men and gods. Evander knew of Mount Pelion's reputation. It was a place where the line between civilization and wildness blurred, where the centaurs, creatures who were half human, half horse, roamed freely. Chiron, the wise centaur, was revered by many heroes as a teacher, but Arion had turned against his kin, becoming a rogue and causing chaos among the mortals who lived near the mountain. Without hesitation, Evander packed his belongings, took his father's golden lyre as a token of his divine heritage, and set out for Mount Pelion. His journey took him through dense forests and across rolling hills. But the landscape soon changed as he entered the untamed lands of Thessaly, where the centaurs roamed. The trees here were ancient, their gnarled branches twisting toward the heavens, and the ground was littered with bones of old battles. Upon arriving at the base of Mount Pelion, Evander was greeted by a centaur unlike any he had ever seen. Tall, proud, and draped in robes that flowed like water, this centaur had an aura of wisdom that instantly commanded respect. "You must be Evander, son of Apollo," the centaur said, bowing his head slightly. "I am Chiron, teacher of heroes. Athena has sent word of your arrival." Evander bowed in return. "Chiron, I have come to seek the sacred artifact that has been stolen by Arion. The gods have tasked me with retrieving it." Chiron's expression darkened. Arion is no longer of sound mind. He has been corrupted by a dark force that we do not fully understand. He now resides in the caverns, high on Mount Pelion, where the artifact is kept. It is a dangerous path, but I believe you have the strength and courage to retrieve it. Evander felt a surge of determination. "I will face whatever challenges lie ahead." Before he could set off, Chiron raised a hand. "The artifact you seek is the Aegis, the shield of Zeus. It has the power to call down lightning and protect its bearer from any harm. However, it was never meant to be in mortal hands, and even Arion, with his strength, has been unable to fully control it. Be wary, for the Aegis is as much a danger to you as it is to your enemies." Evander nodded, feeling the weight of the task ahead. With Chiron's blessing, he began his ascent up the steep slopes of Mount Pelion. The mountain was treacherous, its paths winding and narrow, but Evander pressed on, his heart steeled by the knowledge that the fate of the gods and men rested on his shoulders. As he climbed higher, the air grew colder, and the trees gave way to jagged rocks and cliffs that jutted out like the teeth of a great beast. It was here, in the highest reaches of the mountain, that Evander found the entrance to the caverns where Arion had taken refuge. The cavern was dark, lit only by the faint glow of flickering torches. Inside, the sound of hooves echoed off the stone walls, and a deep, menacing voice filled the air. "Who dares enter my domain?" came the voice of Arion, filled with rage and madness. Evander stepped forward, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. "I am Evander, son of Apollo. I have come for the Aegis." Arion appeared from the shadows, his eyes wild and his body covered in dark, jagged armor. The Aegis was strapped to his back, crackling with divine energy. "You think you can take this from me?" Arion growled. "The Aegis is mine. With it, I will rule both gods and men." Evander knew that reasoning with the centaur would be futile. The madness had taken hold of Aryan completely. Drawing his sword, he prepared for battle. The clash was fierce. Aryan, though corrupted, was a formidable opponent, his strength enhanced by the power of the Aegis. Each blow from his hooves sent shockwaves through the cavern, and his wild swings with the Aegis unleashed bolts of lightning that scorched the walls. But Evander was no ordinary mortal. He moved with the grace of a god, dodging Aryan's attacks and striking back with precision. The battle raged for what felt like hours, until finally Evander saw his opportunity. With a swift strike, he knocked the Aegis from Aryan's back, sending the shield skidding across the floor of the cavern. Aryan, now disarmed, let out a furious roar and charged at Evander. But the young hero was ready. With a final, powerful strike, he drove his sword into the centaur's chest, ending the battle. Breathing heavily, Evander retrieved the Aegis and held it in his hands. The shield hummed with power, its surface crackling with divine energy. He could feel its immense weight, not just physically, but the burden it carried, the responsibility of wielding such a powerful artifact. With Aryan defeated, Evander made his way back down Mount Pelion, the Aegis safely in his possession. Upon reaching the base of the mountain, Chiron greeted him with a nod of approval. "You have done well, Evander. The gods will hear of your deeds," Chiron said. "But your journey is far from over. There are still 2 more tasks ahead of you." Evander, though weary from the battle, felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had proven himself in the first task, but he knew that the trials ahead would only grow more difficult. With the Aegis in hand, he set off for his next challenge, ready to face whatever the gods had in store for him. With the first trial behind him, Evander's next task took him to the island of Crete, home to one of the greatest architectural wonders of the ancient world, the Labyrinth of Daedalus. Built by the genius inventor Daedalus to contain the monstrous Minotaur, the labyrinth was a place of mystery, filled with traps and secrets. Though the Minotaur had been slain by the hero Theseus many years ago, the labyrinth remained a place of intrigue, and now it held the key to Evander's second trial. Evander arrived in Crete and made his way to the palace of King Minos, where he was greeted by a young woman with fiery red hair and a commanding presence. "I am Ariadne, daughter of King Minos," she said, her voice steady and filled with confidence. "I've heard of your quest, Evander. The gods have tasked you with retrieving something from the labyrinth, have they not?" Evander nodded. "Yes, Athena has told me that my second trial lies within the labyrinth. What must I retrieve?" Ariadne smiled faintly, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "The golden thread is a relic from the time when Theseus entered the labyrinth to slay the Minotaur. It is said to have the power to guide anyone through even the most difficult of mazes. But there is more to this task than simply finding the thread." "What do you mean?" Evander asked. "The labyrinth has changed since Theseus walked its halls," Ariadne explained. "Daedalus, in his wisdom, made the labyrinth a living thing, constantly shifting and changing its paths. Even the gods cannot predict its movements. You will need more than strength and courage to find the golden thread. You will need cunning and patience." Evander nodded, understanding the gravity of the task ahead. The labyrinth was not just a physical challenge, but a mental one as well. He would need to rely on more than just his sword to navigate its ever-changing paths. With Ariadne's guidance, Evander entered the labyrinth. The walls were high and made of smooth, cold stone, and the air was thick with the weight of centuries of history. The moment he stepped inside, the entrance behind him sealed shut, and the walls began to shift and move, creating new paths and closing off old ones. For hours, Evander wandered through the twisting corridors, encountering dead ends and false trails at every turn. The labyrinth seemed to have a will of its own, guiding him deeper and deeper into its depths. At times, he heard strange sounds, whispers, footsteps, and the distant clattering of stone. He knew that the labyrinth was testing him, trying to break his spirit. But Evander was determined. He focused his mind, remembering the lessons he had learned from Athena. Patience, wisdom, and the ability to see beyond what was immediately in front of him would be his greatest tools. After what felt like days of wandering, Evander stumbled upon a hidden chamber deep within the labyrinth. Inside, on a pedestal made of gleaming marble, lay the golden thread. Its surface shimmered with an ethereal light, and as Evander approached, he felt a sense of calm wash over him. But before he could reach the thread, the ground beneath him shifted, and a wall of stone rose from the floor, separating him from the artifact. The labyrinth was not done with him yet. Evander took a deep breath, steadying himself. He examined the room carefully, searching for any clue that would help him bypass the barrier. After a few moments, he noticed something, a small inscription carved into the wall. To pass through the wall, the hero must see not with his eyes, but with his heart. Evander frowned, unsure of what the inscription meant. He had relied on his senses throughout the labyrinth, but now it seemed that the solution lay in something deeper. He closed his eyes, focusing on the beating of his heart, and let his mind clear. He thought of his father, Apollo, the god of light and truth. Perhaps the key was not in what he saw, but in what he knew to be true. Slowly, Evander began to walk forward, trusting in his instincts rather than his sight. To his surprise, he passed through the stone wall as if it were made of air. When he opened his eyes, he stood before the golden thread, the barrier gone. He reached out and took the thread, its surface warm to the touch. As he did, the labyrinth shifted once more, and a new path opened before him, leading him back to the entrance. With the golden thread in hand, Evander emerged from the labyrinth, greeted by Ariadne, who smiled at him with approval. "You have succeeded," she said. "The gods will hear of your cleverness, Evander. You have passed the second trial." Though weary from his ordeal, Evander felt a surge of pride. He had navigated the labyrinth and retrieved the golden thread, proving not only his strength, but his wisdom and cunning as well. But his journey was not yet over. One final trial awaited him, one that would test not only his body and mind, but his very soul. Evander's third and final trial took him to the heart of Mount Etna, the great volcano where the god Hephaestus, the divine smith, forged weapons and artifacts for the gods. It was said that within the heart of the volcano burned the eternal flame, a fire that could create or destroy anything it touched. For his final task, Evander was to retrieve a spark of this flame and bring it to Olympus. But the journey to Mount Etna was perilous. The volcano's slopes were treacherous, and its molten rivers of lava flowed with a fury that few mortals could survive. Yet Evander knew that this final task was the most important of all. The flame of Hephaestus was not just a tool, it was a symbol of creation, of the power to shape the world itself. Upon reaching the base of the volcano, Evander was met by the god Hephaestus himself. The smith god was a towering figure, his muscular arms blackened by soot and his eyes gleaming with the fire of his forge. "You've come to claim the eternal flame, have you?" Hephaestus asked, his voice gruff but not unkind. Evander bowed respectfully. "Yes, great Hephaestus. The gods have tasked me with retrieving a spark of the flame." Hephaestus nodded, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "Few mortals would dare to enter the heart of my forge, but the gods have chosen you for a reason. The eternal flame is a dangerous thing, Evander. It can create wonders beyond imagination, but it can also bring about destruction. Only one with a pure heart can wield its power without being consumed." Evander met the god's gaze. "I understand the risks, but I will not falter." Hephaestus smiled, a rare expression for the usually solemn god. "Then follow me." The god led Evander deep into the volcano, through winding tunnels and chambers filled with the sound of hammer on anvil. The air grew hotter and hotter as they descended, until finally they reached the heart of the forge. Before them, in a great basin of stone, burned the eternal flame. Its light was blinding, and the heat it radiated was nearly unbearable. Yet there was a strange beauty to it, a sense of infinite possibility. Hephaestus handed Evander a small golden vessel. "Take a single spark and no more. The flame is unpredictable, and even a spark holds great power." Evander approached the flame cautiously, feeling its intense heat on his skin. He reached out with the golden vessel and captured a single spark, which glowed brightly within the container. As he turned to leave, the ground beneath him rumbled. The volcano, sensing the removal of its sacred fire, began to quake violently. Lava spewed from the walls, and the tunnels began to collapse around them. "Run!" Hephaestus shouted, his voice echoing through the cavern. Evander sprinted toward the exit, dodging falling rocks and rivers of molten lava. The path ahead seemed to shift and change as the volcano's fury grew, but Evander pressed on, determined to complete his task. At the last moment, just as the entrance collapsed behind him, Evander burst free from the volcano, the golden vessel still clutched tightly in his hand. He had done it. He had captured the spark of the eternal flame. Hephaestus appeared beside him, a look of approval on his soot-streaked face. "You've proven yourself, Evander. The gods will remember your name." With the eternal flame in hand, Evander made his way to Olympus, the home of the gods. It was here, at the peak of Mount Olympus, that his deeds would be judged and his fate would be decided. As he ascended the mountain, Evander's heart raced with anticipation. The trials had tested him in ways he had never imagined, but he had emerged victorious. Now, the gods would decide if he was worthy to stand among them. At the summit of Olympus, Evander was greeted by the 12 Olympian gods. seated on their thrones in the grand hall of the gods. Zeus, the king of the gods, sat at the center, his thunderbolt crackling in his hand. Evander, son of Apollo, Zeus began, his voice booming across the hall. You have completed the tasks set before you. You have retrieved the Aegis, navigated the labyrinth, and captured the eternal flame. Now we must decide if you are worthy of the honor that awaits you. The gods murmured among themselves, their eyes fixed on the young hero. Evander stood tall, his heart filled with pride and humility. After a long moment, Athena stepped forward. I have watched this hero closely. He has proven not only his strength and wisdom, but his heart. He is worthy of the gods' favor. Zeus nodded, his eyes gleaming with approval. Very well. Evander, from this day forth, you shall be known as the champion of Olympus. Your deeds will be remembered for all eternity, and your name will be spoken alongside the greatest heroes of legend. As the gods bestowed their blessings upon him, Evander felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had completed his journey, and in doing so, he had bridged the gap between the divine and mortal worlds. His name would live on in the songs of heroes, and his legacy would endure for all time. And so, the tale of Evander, the champion of Olympus, came to an end. But his legend would live on, inspiring future generations of heroes to rise and face the trials set before them, knowing that with courage, wisdom, and a pure heart, they too could shape the destiny of the world.